me,
I'm so sorry, guys. There was a glitch and the recording did not take off, but it is recording now.
let me just ask a super basic question in terms of check writing. What kind of checks and balances are there if we have, take anybody in the organization who writes a check? Does anybody else review that check, or is it like one person writes the check and that's it?
Ashley, go ahead.
We have multiple levels of review above our internal controls. So several people in the fiscal department review, including either Rowena or myself, many times both, but Lori reviews, and in her absence, Connie can also review.
So there is a purchase order process, Dan. Almost in every case, there is I sign off purchase orders after they've been reviewed by the department head and the fiscal department. That then culminates in a cash conversation. I sign all checks still. That check contains my signature and the board chair. Beyond that, and I tell you, we know we have to do a good job. We are monitored by everyone, just as the ISD is. So we know, and we're small enough. There's no real room for excuses. I don't handle the drafts. We do a lot of electronic transfer. That's Connie and Rebecca, who's not on the call. She is non-fiscal, and they review the big cash draws to the two main contractors. So we have multiple levels. We have a lot of separation of activity. So there's no one thing. And truthfully, nobody can write a check on their own, to my knowledge. That's never happened.
Okay.
I think what Dan was alluding to is that he's saying, please assure me that Carter doesn't write checks. And we
Carter asked for that also. We hoodwinked him into this job and he said, now, is this like a real treasurer? No, you don't sign anything. You hold the meetings.
Yeah.
You're just there for liability purposes, Carter.
Well, that makes me feel really good. I would, two comments. One, relating to the finding last year. If you're going to have a finding, we'll let it be on revenue recognition versus some sort of expense that's undisclosed. So it was a minor thing. Kevin, thank you for the lengthy explanation in the past on that, and it is in the past. So we're very happy to have a clean audit. You mentioned, Kevin, that you looked at TANF, Child Care Group, and SNAP. What percentage of our revenues were examined, or, in total, what did you look at in a percentage?
Carter, I'm going to work from memory here, and Michelle, please correct me if I'm wrong, but from a just federal grant and state grant exposure, I believe those three programs make up between 65 and 80% of the total expenditures.
Right, great.
From a financial statement perspective, that still means that there is, 20% out there. We subject those non-major programs to sampling. So just because an expenditure occurred in a non-major program does not mean that it's not going to be subjected to audit work.
Great. Okay, thank you.
For the benefit of all the members, and I know, just to clarify, this is beyond a financial audit. It is a compliance audit. So it takes into account reviewing Connie's work, Demetria's work, Wesley's work, who's doing the procurement, how are the minutes kept, are we abiding by open meetings. It is far more exhaustive than just financial records. And I know the compliance is government-esque, but in our business, it's big, it's deep. Also childcare, and Kevin, I'm going to ask you to restate the opinion for the record, since audio was not working. But I think for the tape, sorry. Childcare has become sort of an anomaly, and I want us to be careful. Childcare is one contractor, mostly. We have some quality stuff, but one big contract. And it keeps loading on money, which sort of skews the percentage childcare represents in actuality. It's going to be worse next year, guys. In October, it looks like we could be 140 million just childcare funds. Massive. They're looking at another 55 million to hand to us for a special initiative for family support for people working in, for lack of a better phrase, hospitality, the service industry. And they've categorized that and thrown special money in. It's a 1-year grant. It's huge. 55 million is not a tack on, you know, it's huge. So as we talk percentages, I think we do need to look at an interesting pie chart. I'm almost willing to put childcare on its own pie because it sort of distorts. I mean, I've got 8 offices working on Workforce and Opportunity Act and scholarships and such. And then this whole childcare assistance that's paying for children in care specifically. We're up to 13,000 kids. We have a wait list over 1,000. And the money doesn't seem to solve the problem. And the feds keep throwing money, and so does the state. And it's a wonderful thing to get people back to work. But this thing has become huge. It sort of dwarfs everything else. And I think the proportionality scares me. So much work is going on in the smaller money and so many other functions. But people look at us as either labor exchange, we hold job fairs, or we do childcare. And we're sort of pushing out that original reason we existed, the Workforce Investment Act. So just for future thought, we will start categorizing it, Carter, for financial reports to show a little bit more of the oomph that we get from the other funding, because we're touching about 100,000 lives with the other funding we have compared to just childcare. TANF being a big part of that, but TANF was shut down for almost a whole year. There were no required participating hours. It's very strange. Carter, you're on mute.
Thank you. Those are timely comments because really my next question to Kevin was, you know, the audit sort of a look back, but as we look forward, evaluating any future risk, you know, we've been through a couple of years of everybody, every company represented here, school district, AT&T, our company, everybody's been through a rough patch for the last 2 years, and look, we're still standing. So I think, Kevin, what I would ask is there any risk that you see to the organization from what you've seen in the audit?
It's a great question, Carter, and it's one that I've answered both in public as well as the private session with the audit committee members, and it's the same answer I've given probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And I know that it is on the board's agenda, so that makes me feel better. It's succession planning. You have an absolutely incredible management team with you know, if you started adding up the variety of people, 100, you know, probably close to 100 years of experience, if not more, in these highly technical areas. It's deep technical expertise, it's relationships with the granting agencies, the inspector generals, etc. If there is one thing that keeps me on my side up at night thinking about the future, it's about who's going to be in these Brady Bunch pictures in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's the risk that I see going forward.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we know that. But it's great to hear it from a financial impact standpoint as well. That if you don't have your ducks in a row, not only does it hurt you organizationally, but it's a financial thing to think about. So. A point well taken. I think no surprises for anybody in this room on that. Well, and if there aren't any more comments, then I think, Lori, I would say that, yeah.
Just very quickly, I wanted to remind you guys, because we're back on tape, we will be issuing unmodified opinions on the financial statements, as well as both the federal and the state compliance requirements.
Okay. Well, then based on that, I think I would take a motion that we accept the audit as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, Dan, thank you. Jason, second. All of us, any more discussion? All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, Lori. So I think with that, we have concluded the the audit discussion. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Ashley and her team for the exceptional work during the most trying of times. Kevin for the partnership. We all see the word partner and we think about, oh, well, that's just somebody that wants to do business with us. But in this case, it truly is a partnership of a long period of time where there's a high level of trust and respect. And that's what makes a partner. So we thank you for your work as well and for your for assurances that you've given us and for your explanations. So I don't really have anything else, and look forward to seeing you again at the meeting.
Carter, you made me look bad. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Michelle and her team as well. They do a tremendous job working with Ashley and Laurie and Connie and Rowena throughout the engagement. So we both have two quality teams.
Well, it's not hard to make me look good, so. But thank you very much for all the team, and we really do look forward to continuing our journey together. So we'll close out the audit discussion, and then Laurie, from a housekeeping standpoint, I think we now move into the insurance issues.
Yes, sir, for just a moment, and then we'll adjourn this meeting. There is a separate link for the interviews. For Dan and Jason, so appreciate you being here this morning. If you can log into the second portion, that's great, but we understand, and Carter, you as well. We'd love to have you guys. We're going to do interviews with the two candidate brokers, Crow and I'm sorry, Crow, CBRE and JLL. So I'm switching. I'm just playing with logos and acronyms this morning all over Dallas. So we have a couple of things to do. Ashley's raising her hand. Go ahead, bud.
Thank you both. Thank everybody and the teams. It's been a great experience as usual. I just wanted to mention one thing before we release the auditors. And this was just drawn to our attention this week. And we have until the end of the year, but Comerica, who we have banked with since the 90s, is exiting the municipality's business. So we will be changing our banking relationship due to the exit, and Lori and I will be looking into options as we procure a new bank, but we would value the input of our board and our auditors as we approach the change. So I just wanted to make mention and make you all aware of the recent news.
Well, is there anything regulatory regarding transferring of funds when that occurs? I know in certain industries, there must be notification before transfers occur, and it's quite natural that you're doing that, but I just wonder if there's any other notifications that are required.
Only thing would be to our grantor, particularly for cash transmission, but I think the other thing is collateralization, and that's what's being dumped. And so I'm worried about cost. We have not paid banking in a long time. We haven't made much interest either. Our collateralization runs at about 9 mil. You have to have that much because what's in the accounts potentially in the accounts, the money doesn't stay there more than 3 days. The last time we shopped a bank was Bob Hudspeth, and we were with NCND. So it's been a long time, guys. Comerica has treated us well, but with that mid-sized bank. So I don't know how we replace them. Frost came into my mind. I'm open to all suggestions. It's disconcerting. We have had such a long relationship with Comerica. I wish they wouldn't do this to their really good customers, but they're going to boot us, and finding the right people on that side of the coin, it's going to be tough. Suggestions were appreciated. Seriously, we don't want the biggest guys. We're sort of like I said, KPMG to Crow. We're looking at that perfectly sized for our operation. That is top of their size category. I don't want to get lost at a certain bank that's too big for us, that doesn't give us the personal relationship we have with most of our services.
That was
Do you want to do the insurance real quick? The auditors can go. Yes.
Thank you.
so
Stay
much,
healthy,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks, Michelle, Kevin.
Thank you.
me share my screen again and bring up the insurance. And I know we're short on time, so I'll make mention first, and then if you have questions. The only change in our insurance has to do with cyber. So I'm going to go down to the cyber page here.
Everything else was paid as quoted.
Yes, and as you're probably aware or could expect, cyber insurance has increased in price over the last year as we're all working from home. We have kept our policy limit here the same at 2 million, and we want to maintain continuity with our provider, which is Beasley. They're really top notch. We just don't want to make a change in this current environment. So in an effort to mitigate those costs, we went from a $25,000 deductible in prior year and moved to a $50,000 just to help alleviate some of the premium burden. So that's the change, but you all have the sheets that I sent out, and we can look at any of these that you have questions about.
Can you give us a feel of year-over-year premium increase?
Yes. In total, I have that on another computer. That's frozen. It does not want to go to my sheet so I can see. One moment. So sorry. I think it was about a $40,000 difference year over year, and more than half of that was in cyber. But my screen.
And none of it was based on experience. It was all based on heightened risk forecasts by the insurance carriers. The carriers have they've really hunkered down this year.
$30,000. Sorry.
How much?
It's a $30,000 increase in total year over year, and about 18 of that is cyber.
And what is the percentage increase in terms of total?
Well, let me calculate that for you real quick.
About 27% really because of the cyber.
Yeah, 25%. Very good.
Okay.
Now the cyber's killing us. It's killing a lot of boards. Many boards are realizing they can't carry it this year. That is the dialogue. And that's not going with all of the heightened interest from TWC on cyber and technology. We do have our report from AT&T. That report cannot be shared publicly. There will be a special session to discuss that report with the board with John Dickey. I have been in touch with John. He's doing well. He hopes to be back at the desk full-time by September. I think he might pop into the board meeting next week, but he is recovering well, and we're just really glad to have him back on board. The report is not bad, but it makes so many recommendations that not having this coverage would be a huge issue. But we've got to take a lot more steps in technology. We're going to have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. And thankful we have it. A lot of boards don't, but there are things that we need to look at. So.
Well, I think the brokers sort of led us down the road that we would be seeing an increase this year. And that's pretty standard in all insurance categories. So I don't think there's any surprises. 25% seems high, but in light of what we've all experienced in worldwide, that it's probably about right. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask directors and officers insurance. Is there any changes in that, and still under coverage for that?
Trying to move my page with my Zoom here. Okay, let's see. Here we are. No change in coverage from prior year, but you can see the outline here, a $5 million maximum.
And the biggest concern we had with cyber and moving cyber, we're not getting the answers we used to get about prior prior events being covered if you change carriers. In fact, on the technology side, it was sort of a conversation that, no, we don't cover anything that happened before we covered you. And so, usually you'd get that pre-existing and this coverage would apply. So we're not moving much right now until the industry stabilizes. The answers were not the answers we used to get.
Well, completely understand. So I think what generally we're saying is we have the same carriers, we have the same coverages, we have an increase of 25%. Other than that, there's not much here to go over.
Unless y'all can think of some insurance we don't carry that we might. Let us know if there's something, because things are changing so dramatically. Happy to search into other options. Okay, we need to move on. Ash, are we good to, did you need action on that or were we done?
Yes, we would like to ratify the insurance coverage for the 2021-2022 year.
Okay, so I think that's a motion. Jason, you're unmuted, so why don't you make that motion?
I motion to ratify the insurance coverage for 2020 or 2020? 21-22.
Thank you, Jason. And if I could get a second.
Second.
Dan has seconded. Any more discussion about insurance or questions you guys might have? Okay, there being none, then we will call for a vote. All in favor that we ratify the insurance, indicate aye. Raise
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ashley.
Very good. Thank you all so much for your service. We really appreciate it. We've set up a separate Zoom link that Connie sent you for the broker interview so that they wouldn't interrupt this meeting. So I'll go ahead and end this call if you'll go log into the
It's up to the chairman to adjourn.
Okay, well, so noted. I move that we adjourn and move over to the next meeting. Thank you, everyone, and see you in just a minute.
Thank you so much.